This is the vlog for November 2nd, 2008, 2018. Uh, um, each day gets a little bit better than the last one. I got lucky today because this afternoon, right around 3 o'clock, the sun came out for probably the first time in a few days. And I went for a walk. It was actually unseasonably warm, nearly 60 degrees, which is unheard of in November most of the time. But yeah, I am keeping pace with NaNoWriMo's basic requirement, which is 50,000 words. But I'm hoping to exceed that by quite a bit, or at the very least, get it done a lot earlier than the 30th of November. I have to write about 1,666 words per day to, or 1,606, 1,667 will put me over 50,000 by the end of the month. But that's, that's an average per day. You can write more on some days, and if you're ahead of schedule, you can relax on others. But right now, I really don't have any excuse not to be putting more in, except that I've gone through a fairly traumatic experience, and it's getting hard to get into the rhythm of writing every day. But I have written both days so far. Only 28 more to go. So I'm confident that that I'll finish the book, and I think it'll be pretty good. It'll be honest, at least. I'm writing from a very personal place this time. I don't know how interesting it will be. My hope is that once the adventure really kicks into gear, it'll have people hooked. But it may require some work with an editor down the line. I've never worked with an editor before. Writing the book is so little of actually getting it published sometimes. It makes me think that I need to do a lot more research just into the whole process of being a novelist, even though in high school I made an entire senior project out of it. That was the first time I really looked at what it would take to be a novelist, and I wrote a novel. It was very bad, but the project wasn't just to do a thing, it was to learn how to do the thing. And so I read a lot of books about and articles about what writers had done to break into the field, the challenges they had to face, and what the market was like. The problem is that the book I read was a little bit out of date when I read it, and it's been 20 years almost. So I could definitely brush up on some new material to get a better idea of what the state of the world is like right now in writing. I know that some publishers are very fond of writers who have made a name for themselves in fan fiction before they break out into original prose. The huge success of 50 Shades of Grey is basically something that has made publishers like sit up and go, oh, we've got something here that might work. I don't write a lot of fan fiction. I much prefer my own original work, just because I don't have to worry about the questionable legality of transformative work. Not that I don't love it, and I appreciate when people are doing it, but it is hard to transit from writing in someone else's universe or using someone else's characters to making your own stuff that is interesting and stands on its own merit. And I understand why it is daunting to people and why they would prefer to use established characters, because they don't feel like they have the ability to create something as compelling as the work they are transforming themselves. But the great irony, of course, is that the more you transform something, and these coffee shop alternate universe ideas that sometimes get eye rolls from people are actually a lot more clever than a lot of people give them credit for. Now, the ones that follow the basic formula of character A walks in the coffee shop while character B is serving coffee. They hit it off and have a little romantic encounter. That by itself is probably a little too corny and a little too retrod at this point to really work as its own work. But the base idea of taking the established characters, putting them in a different universe, changing aspects of those characters so that they fit in a new universe, at that point you're very close to having new characters. So alternate universe fan fiction is actually a pretty legitimate way to break into, as they call it, real writing, because transformative works should not be considered fake writing. It's just derivative as opposed to original. But yeah, these are things that I'm thinking about. Trying not to go to dark places. And I've just got to keep going. I'm going to have the house to myself for most of the weekend, so maybe with less distraction, I'll be in a better place to do writing. We'll see. Until then, I'm Eric Spornitz, and tomorrow will be better.